Next, on Currents News, historic deal. It could mean the beginning of the end for Israel's longest-serving Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. Plus, new scrutiny on Dr. Anthony Fauci after thousands of his emails from the beginning of the pandemic were released. A memorial for Vietnam veterans is vandalized. Now a city council member is stepping in to help find who did it. And answering the call, we hear from the fourth and final deacon on his path to priesthood in the Diocese of Brooklyn. He's been preparing for the task.
Brooklyn, we call a melting pot. Language is always an important way to lead us to those who are in need.
Deacon Chin is looking forward to leading his flock. The news starts right now. Benjamin Netanyahu's 12-year run as Israeli prime minister may soon come to an end after a historic deal is reached. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. A coalition consisting of 8 parties with little in common except the goal of toppling Netanyahu have agreed to form a new government. While Netanyahu is calling them left-wing and dangerous, the coalition is pushing for a quick parliament vote to end his rule. That's opposition leader Yair Lapid alongside his main coalition partner Naftali Bennett on the phone with the Israeli president.
Mr. President, I'm calling you to say that I've succeeded in forming a government with the factions of Yesh Atid, Yemina, Kahol Lavan, Ram, New Hope, Meretz, and the Labour Party. All of them together, they signed for me.
The unlikely allies, political rivals of longtime Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, have announced a deal to form a unity government, which would mean Netanyahu would be ousted from office.
Mr. President, we will do together whatever is good for Israel, and we will see you at the swearing-in ceremony. Thank you very much.
After 4 elections and more than 2 years of political dysfunction, under the deal of this coalition, the right-wing leader Bennett will serve as prime minister first. Then 2 years later, centrist leader Lapid would take over as part of a rotating leadership deal. And for the first time in Israeli history, an Arab Israeli party will also be part of the coalition. Earlier in the week, Netanyahu spoke out denouncing Naftali Bennett as a man who cared about nothing but becoming prime minister, reminding Israelis that before the March election, Bennett said he would not sit in a government led by Lapid.
I heard Mr. Bennett. To my sorrow, he is misleading the public, the same lies, the same hate as somebody who's assisting for division and hate.
The Israeli parliament still has to approve the new government, which may not happen until possibly June 14th, which gives Netanyahu and his allies some time to get a few defectors to potentially cause the deal to crumble. Following the release of 3,200 messages sent to and by the nation's top infectious disease expert, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul is calling for Dr. Anthony Fauci to be fired, citing a correspondence between the doctor and the nonprofit that funded the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The Republican lawmaker claims Fauci lied about the origin of the virus, asserting his theory that COVID-19 was created in a lab with funds from the National Institute of Health.
Yeah, so early on, I was somewhat persuaded. All these scientists were telling me that it couldn't have come from the lab, and I listened to them. But then I discovered that they had not revealed that they were the very scientists that were funding the lab. So the conflict of interest is this. If this virus came from the lab, there's a certain amount of at least moral culpability.
Because of this, Senator Paul believes Fauci mishandled the pandemic during the Trump administration. However, Fauci says what he knew then is completely different from what we know now.
He knew then that the data show that masks outside of a hospital setting are actually do work when we didn't know it then. If we realized all of those things back then, of course, you're asking a question, would you have done something different if you know what you know now?
Fauci says the origin of the coronavirus is still uncertain and the lab leak theory is not off the table. Police are looking for the vandals that targeted a veterans memorial in Elmhurst. Racist and anti-Semitic graffiti was spray painted on the Queens Vietnam Veterans Memorial. City Council member Robert Holden posted photos of the graffiti, calling it a cowardly act. A $1,000 reward is being offered for information. Police are also investigating vandalism at nearby St. Adalbert's in Elmhurst. The Hate Crimes Task Force is on the job after a statue of Mary was pushed over and broken into pieces. There are no cameras in the courtyard, so police will have a difficult time finding clues. No word if the two incidents are related. If you have any information on who may have damaged the statue or spray painted the memorial, call Crime Stoppers at 800-577-TIPS. That's 800-577-8477. Hackers were able to break into the MTA's computer networks. Officials say they were alerted to the hack by the FBI back in April, and the hackers are thought to be tied to the Chinese government. They were able to access at least 3 of the agency's 18 database systems. No employee or customer information was compromised, but some contractors may be impacted. No operations systems were affected either. Catholic schools are no longer exempt from Vermont's tuition program. A federal court ruled the state cannot refuse to fund tuition for religious institutions that would otherwise qualify for the funding. In Vermont, residents of towns without public schools are eligible to have their tuition at a private school paid for by the state. There's a lot more news headed your way. We'll introduce you to another man who decided to answer the call, one that led him from Vietnam to Brooklyn. Plus, get ready to see some packed pews at Mass this weekend. Bishop Dimarzio will be here with why you should come back to church and why your child may soon be able to roll up their sleeves for a shot. An update on COVID-19 vaccines.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
The Diocese of Brooklyn will soon have 4 new priests. Current News' Jessica Easthope has been sharing their stories of how they found themselves answering God's call. Jessica joins us now to tell us about one soon-to-be priest who's really going the distance for his community.
Christine, it's been amazing getting to know these soon-to-be priests. They're selfless, faithful, hardworking, but Deacon Chin Win, who you're about to meet, is the definition of humble. He was born ready to serve, and when it comes to his ministry, he wants to hit the ground running.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners.
Most people hate change, but Deacon Chin Win's life has been defined by it. He's never resisted it or complained. He's embraced it, always trusting God's plan.
I believe in the call, in God's call, and I think my parents always pray for us to become good Catholics.
Growing up in northern Vietnam, Deacon Chin is the second youngest of 10 children. His name means 9 in Vietnamese. As a young kid, his uncle, a priest in the Diocese of Rockville Center, went back to Vietnam for a visit, and life as he knew it would never be the same.
He saw if we stay in the north, there was no education at all. So he foresee that, so then he sent us to the south.
The 4 youngest children in his family left their parents to live with an aunt in southern Vietnam, a great opportunity that came with a harsh reality.
From the north to the south, we don't fly like over here, but only I took bus, then took about more than a day. We just visited my parents every 3 years.
But his love of God blossomed out of hardship. Faith soon became his family's legacy. The 4 siblings who made that move as children grew to dedicate their lives to Christ.
My brother, the first one who joined the seminary in Ho Chi Minh City in Saigon now. And then my brother, the second one, joined another local order in Vietnam.
At Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Astoria, Deacon Chin has made a deep connection with parishioners.
Go forth, the Mass is ended.
Learning to speak their language. Literally.
I could do Italian reading for the Mass. Spanish, I can do the reading and share homily. Chinese, I can do some short conversation.
He's trying to blend in with the community around him, preparing for his life's mission.
Brooklyn, we call it a melting pot. Language is always an important way to lead us to those who are in need. Seconda lectura.
But no matter how fluent he becomes in Italian, Spanish, or Chinese, God's language is universal.
Deacon Chin has that amazing connection of vocation with two of his brothers and his youngest sister. He said living with his aunt wasn't always easy. She was pretty strict, but Christine, I think she must have done something right raising those kids that went on to live religious lives.
Absolutely, Jess. And it seems like this was quite the journey for him. And he's only 35 years old. He has a long life and service ahead of him.
That's right. And you know, what's really interesting is that Deacon Chin told me that in Vietnam, at the time when he was living there under communist law, religious persecution for Christians was really common, and that religion was never taught in school ever. And so his call was really so strong, all coming from a really limited exposure to faith. And, you know, it's been amazing getting to know these guys. And I think that Ordination Day is going to be emotional for the five of us.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be, and we really enjoyed your stories. Thanks, Jess. And you can watch the priesthood ordination live right here on Net TV. It takes place this Saturday, June 5th at 11 in the morning from the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph. Bishop Dimarzio will preside over the ordination mass this weekend. He's also looking forward to seeing everyone back to church as he reinstates the Sunday obligation. He's sitting down with former Tablet editor Ed Wilkinson to talk about why he's bringing it back. Ed.
Thank you. Bishop Dimarzio is with us again today. And Bishop, this Sunday, the moral obligation to attend Sunday Mass is back in effect. Why? This is the Feast of Corpus Christi that's coming up. Why did we decide that this week would be a good time to put that obligation back into effect?
Well, because of the possibility of having almost normal attendance. People, if they wish to come back, they should be able to find a seat. And secondly, it was a temporary dispensation from the responsibility of Mass, so that people would know that they shouldn't be forced to come back, they should feel comfortable in coming back. After all, it was a pandemic. I think one of the most beautiful comparisons that St. John Paul II made in his apostolic letter, Dies Domini, the Day of the Lord, he said, the obligation to attend the Eucharist is done by Mother Church. Just as a mother knows when to have her children go to church, if they're well, if they're sick, she keeps them home. It's basically, we have to take on the idea of being a mother. A mother wants the best for her children, spiritually and physically, obviously. People sometimes are afraid to absent themselves from the Eucharist, even when they're sick. So they should not be. They should really think, well, what my mother would say. Should I go? Should I stay home? Is there a reason? There's somebody else sick that I need to take care of? Keep that in mind. It's Mother Church who wants the best for her children. It's not meant to be an obligation that is onerous, but it's an obligation that we should freely be able to subscribe to.
Obviously, in the early church, there was not this obligation, but early Christians got together every week and celebrated the Eucharist. Why do you think the church at some point in history decided to legislate this and say that people must attend every Sunday?
Well, again, we go back to the Middle Ages, and mass attendance also was a problem. Communion was not that frequent. There were many restrictions about receiving communion. Don't forget you had to fast from midnight. And there were very strict ideas. Jansenism came into the church at a certain point where they were looking for almost perfection before someone could receive communion. So because of that, there needed to be a set of rules. We called them the precepts of the church. I think it was after the Council of Trent that these precepts were put in to observe the Sundays, days of obligation, support pastors, do the things that we're supposed to make our Easter duty at least once a year, receive communion. That's how sometimes it was so rare to receive communion. Now things have changed.
Yeah.
We are encouraged to receive the Eucharist as often as possible.
Do you ever think we'd get to the point where people would appreciate the Eucharist so much that they just would go on their own volition? We wouldn't have to mandate attendance at Sunday Mass?
Well, I think people do that already. Again, it's unfortunate. Sometimes the belief in the Eucharist has weakened. People don't understand that what it really is, that it is really the body and the blood of Jesus Christ. It's not just something symbolic, that this is really the presence of the Lord with us. The more they come to appreciate that, the more they will not absent themselves for no reason, any small and insufficient reason from the Eucharist.
In your impression about the numbers of people who are returning to church since the pandemic, are people coming back?
Yes, we see an increase, a steady increase. It's clear all the parishes.
And, since this is Corpus Christi, will parishes be allowed to have processions outside? Is that encouraged or not?
Again, if the police will accommodate them, again, we're asking that they wear masks and socially distance so that they're not bunched up. But we've given them some direction that it is possible to have well-organized processions.
Okay, Bishop, thanks so much. We'll all see you in church on Sunday.
Good.
And thanks for being with us today.
Great to be with you.
Now we're going back to the news desk.
Thanks, Ed and Bishop Dimarzio. Get your calendars out. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops is announcing the dates for Religious Freedom Week. This year, it will begin on Tuesday, June 22nd, the feast days of Saints Thomas More and John Fisher, and run through the 29th. The theme chosen is Solidarity in Freedom. Each day focuses on different religious liberty topics of concern for the bishops. The CDC director says she's confident the country will meet President Biden's goal of 70% of U.S. adults receiving at least one COVID-19 shot before July 4th. And there's some big news on the vaccine front for kids. Darryl Forges has the details.
The pandemic numbers continue to show promising signs for the United States.
Already 63% of adult Americans have received at least one shot, and 52% of adult Americans are fully vaccinated. As a result, in communities and states across the country, the pandemic is in retreat.
For the first time in 14 months, the U.S. is averaging fewer than 20,000 new cases per day. Hospitalizations and deaths are at their lowest points in months. The White House coronavirus response coordinator says he's optimistic the nation will meet President Biden's goal of 70% of adults receiving at least one COVID-19 vaccine shot by July 4th. But so far, the U.S. is only averaging 1.1 million vaccinations per day. That number was 3 times higher in April. So the government is getting creative. Anheuser-Busch offering free beers if the country reaches Biden's goal.
His leadership is to get people as vaccinated as quickly as possible, as many as possible, whatever it takes. Make it extremely easy for people to get vaccinated. Give incentives. Do whatever you can.
Dr. Fauci says there's a possibility children younger than 12 could get vaccinated by Thanksgiving.
We hope that as we approach the end of this calendar year, we'll have enough information to vaccinate children of any age. So I'm cautiously optimistic we might be there by the end of the year.
I'm Darryl Forges reporting.
With children ages 12 to 17 now eligible for vaccinations, Mayor Bill de Blasio says the city will start offering shots at public schools. Starting this Friday, students at 4 schools in the Bronx may receive the Pfizer vaccine with their parents' consent. The effort is a part of a collaboration with the United Federation of Teachers Union and will expand to other schools and boroughs in the coming weeks. Catholic schools will not be giving out vaccines in the near future. Still to come on Currents News, music to our ears. We speak with the woman still playing at masses at her parish at 94 years old, and the meeting between the Pope and a climate activist. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. A special meeting at the Vatican for Pope Francis. The Holy Father met with a climate activist who plans to travel to the Arctic Circle to raise awareness about the environment. Michael Haddad, who is paralyzed, will use braces to make the 60-mile journey. Pope Francis gave a message to him for his journey: "Pray for me at the North Pole." Doesn't that music sound beautiful? Maybe that's because the woman sitting on the bench has had a lot of practice. 94-year-old Mary Antupa has been playing piano and organ at Holy Family Catholic Church in Grand Forks, North Dakota for nearly 60 years. She's been called a key part of the parish, and we are fortunate to have her join us today. Mary Ann, welcome.
Well, I'm glad you called me.
Well, Marianne, first tell us, why do you play the piano and the organ? Do you get a certain feeling when tickling the ivories?
I do love to play. And what makes it more interesting is when people sing with me. And that's why I enjoy it.
Absolutely. So how old were you when you learned to play? And when did you start playing for the church?
Well, I was probably 10 years old in grade school when I started, and the teachers I went to a royal school and out in the country, and the teachers there knew how to play piano, and they just gave me keyboard. But I probably went through 7 grades, and as far as the church is concerned, we went to mass every Sunday, every week, so that was no problem. And I suppose there was nobody else that played, so I thought it was kind of fun.
All right, so you stepped up and made mass a little bit more fun. Has playing music in church during mass helped to strengthen your faith?
Well, I don't know if it's strengthened my faith or not, but I enjoy it a lot.
And how do you prepare for playing at mass?
Okay, I have a cantor. There's a liturgist that picks out the music, and sometimes I might change some of them that is feasible for the Sunday. And then I have a cantor that I ask to come and practice with me in my home,
Well, I'm sure it's a lot of work. I hear you have 11 children. Is anyone following in your footsteps?
I have one that started taking piano lessons at age 70 or something like that. And she's enjoying it, and she's doing very well. I think that's the only one that played piano. A few played instrument in high school.
Well, I love it. Maybe you can put a little church band together. Mary Antupa, thank you so much for sharing your passion with us and with the church.
Thank you.
So there's hope for me. Her daughter started playing at the age of 70. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.